Hello and welcome to Inside Sports. I'm your host, Todd Blackstock. On today's show, we'll visit with a former NFL All-Pro who has taken over the reins at his alma mater. We'll share some images from this year's Arch Madness tournament held again in St. Louis and say goodbye to the longest tenured commissioner in NCAA basketball. So stay with us for this and much more coming up next on Inside Sports. To the show. Our guest today was an All-American wide receiver and kick returner at the University of Missouri. He was the first-round pick of the Eagles in 2009 and went on to a splendid NFL career with Philadelphia, Kansas City, and Baltimore. He's now come full circle and has recently been named the head football coach of the Kirkwood Pioneers, where he starred in high school. At this time, we welcome former NFL All-Pro Jeremy Maclin to Inside Sports. Jeremy, how are you today?
Good, man. I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, your career has come full circle. I mean, you were a star at Kirkwood in high school, and you also played basketball. Then you went on to University of Missouri, played, 6, 7, 8 years with Philadelphia, on to KC, and finish it up with Baltimore. How's it feel being back at Kirkwood where it all started?
Man, it's awesome, man. Like you just said, that term full circle, right? It truly is. And, just kind of be able to come back to kind of where it all started for me, it's been surreal and kind of a dream come true. It's something that I thought, when I was a senior in high school, hey, when it's all said and done after my playing days were over, this is something that I wanted to do. So to finally see that come true and to be able to be put in that position and have that opportunity is really cool.
One thing I really respect is that you spent a couple of years as an assistant coach under Farrell Shelton, until his retirement. Then recently you were named the head coach. Was that planned, or did it just kind of happen? Did he just kind of,
it just, I think as far as, the result of it, me becoming the head coach kind of just happened. But I think, I had talked to Farrell a few times when I was still playing about, hey, if I decided I'm gonna step away from the game, could I come? I just wanted to come be around the program. I didn't even, coaching wasn't even kind of what we talked about. But kind of as it became more and clear that I was gonna eventually retire. I had to sit down. I talked to Farrell, and he said, they'd be more than welcome to have me, and the rest is kind of history. It was kind of a perfect fit. Kind of the first day I was there. My little cousin was still on the team at the time, so I got a chance to coach him and kind of see him progress through his senior year, and it just kind of kept flowing, man. And last year I was offensive coordinator. A season got cut short, unfortunately, but now this year I'm the head guy. So,
was there anything that Coach Shelton, anything rubbed off on you, or any part of his style that, you thought was kind of cool in the high school game that maybe you, one aspect maybe you patted yourself after or learned?
Yeah, the good thing about myself is just I've experienced a lot of different, personalities when it comes to, guys running the team. And I take it even a step further than Coach Shelton. You look at, Coach Pinkel, you look at Andy Reid, you look at Jim Harbaugh, and I've just, it just kind of just keeps going, and even the assistant coaches, Deuce Staley, David Culley, who's now the head coach of the Houston Texans. I've got a chance to learn from all these guys, and the kind of, the good thing about it is you get to pick and choose and kind of take things you think could work for you and kind of, twist them and kind of fix them up to kind of, represent you and kind of your thoughts. And, when you have so many different brilliant minds, it really is, pretty cool to be able to take different things and, use them for yourself. So, I mean, I've had so many guys, even Coach Shelton, like you just said, I've picked, picked the brains of so many different guys, and I've picked, things that they do and kind of use them for myself.
I guess as an offensive weapon, as you were, I mean, you were a kick returner, a punt returner, a wide receiver. Are you for the high tempo game these days, pro set, or what's kind of your style since
Yeah,
you were an offensive weapon?
I think the good coaches, man. I think the game is evolving. I understand that, but I think the good coaches they cater to their personnel. So I'm a
Okay.
big fan of whatever kind of personnel I have. If you got a quarterback that can sit back there, you can go 5 wide and kind of up tempo, get on the ball and throw the ball around, and that's what you do. If you got a running back that can make some things happen, guess what? I'm gonna turn around. I'm gonna handle the ball 25 to 30 times a game. So I'm a big fan of catering to your personnel. Yeah, you have a method, you have a style, you have a scheme, but you have to cater to the kids. It's my job to put the kids in places to be successful. So I'm not gonna say, hey, we're doing this no matter what, if that's not what my
Yeah, you're
person.
not going to push the system if you don't have the personnel for it.
Absolutely. So
I was talking to Coach Cliff Ice with Webster Groves a couple years ago at the Turkey Day game, and they were like having a down year. And I was just asking them, a few questions, and we're buddies, outside of the industry. And he told me, he said, Todd, he says, it's kind of tough right now getting players. He says a lot of the parents are holding them back from playing football because they don't want to, risk any injuries like that. Then you have the COVID situation. But I guess when you got an NFL player as the coach, it might be kind of fun to come back and play. Did you have any issues at Kirkwood having kids come out and dress because maybe their families were worried about injuries?
I think football is a contact sport, right? And we all understand that. We know that. But when it's taught the right way and it's demonstrated the right way, it's safe to play. Okay, just like any other sport, yeah, there's a chance to get injured. You can get injured in soccer, you can get injured in basketball, hockey. It doesn't matter, right? You can get injured walking up the steps. Now the chances are probably slimmer, but at the end of the day, you can get injured doing anything. But as long as you demonstrate things the right way, as long as you value safety, I think that it's safe to play. Now, as far as the pandemic, people decided they're going to sit out, and you have professionals doing the same thing because of COVID, and whatever the case may be. And you got to respect that. You got to respect that. You got to respect people's wishes. Hopefully, those numbers start to rise in some of the places where we're used to having them up. You look across the sideline and you see Webster Groves numbers going down a little bit, and you don't like to see that because I'm all for football, man. I'm all for the things that it can teach you, the things that it can do for you, the places that it can take you, and the hope that it gives you, right? So I'm all for it, and hopefully, once we get this under control and people start, taking the proper safety measures as far as being able to, to be safe to return to play. I hope, and I got a pretty good feeling that those numbers will go up.
Fantastic. And with COVID, do you have a certain strategy or certain guidelines in place, for the season? And are you looking forward to having the Turkey Day game again? I know the kids are probably devastated not getting to play in the Turkey Day game. I mean, that's a huge bummer when it's like the longest tradition in the country and it has to end. But it wasn't the only one. But I know a lot of people are looking forward to that game again.
Yeah, I go by. We're first of all, at Kirkwood, we're going to take all the safety measures that we need to take and probably go above and beyond. That's proper mask wearing, that's social distancing, that's contact tracing, anything that we need to do. That's what we're going to do, and then we're going to follow the guidelines that Michigan gives us or St. Louis County gives us, and that's what we have to do because at the end of the day, it's about the safety of everybody. It's not just about playing football games. It's about the safety of all our kids when they go home, their families, and everything else that kind of goes after that. So, it was disappointing to not be able to play Turkey Day last year. We were in the playoffs and we couldn't play our playoff game because we had a positive test on the team and we had to shut it down. So I know guys were really looking forward to the Turkey Day game. So not being able to play in that, stung a little bit and hurt a little bit, but the tradition is going to be there. It goes back so far. So I don't think that it's going to put a damper in it. I think guys are still going to be ready to go out there and play. This time around.
It could be challenging as well because Kirkwood is a perennial power. Webster's had their days. And sometimes you've got the Turkey Day game and you're going for a state title at the same time. It's kind of a juggling act. And, you kind of got to dance around it a little bit. And maybe some of the kids can't play in both games, but it's got to be a challenge that you look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was in high school, we were pretty good. So was Webster. My freshman and sophomore year was a JV game because Webster went to state. We lost in the playoffs, and then my junior senior was a varsity game, and then we lost in the playoffs again in the semifinals both of those years too. So I'm used to both of those teams being very, very good, and I look forward to many, many battles against Webster and continuing to keep that Turkey Day tradition alive.
I'm going to go ahead and take a quick break, but stay with us as our conversation with Jeremy Maclin continues after this. We'll be right back.
Don't wait. Communicate. Make your emergency plan today.
Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm Todd Blackstock, and now we're going to continue our conversation with former All-Pro Jeremy Maclin. All right, so yeah, Jeremy, with all the NFL coaches, with 4 of them now in the St. Louis area that are coaching high school, it must be pretty cool for the kids.
Yeah, absolutely.
To play for a former NFL player.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that speaks values to kind of, the coaches and kind of, them wanting to, make a change, and I kind of lead by example. I'm a guy who always says the youth is our future. So any time I get an opportunity to share knowledge, share my experiences, share things that I've had to overcome, I'm all for it. And what better way to do that for me than doing that while teaching the game that I fell in love with at a very young age. So I'm all for it, man. And kudos to those guys. I had to play against those guys a little bit. So I know Steeples has had a lot of success. I know Slew's kind of up and rising right now. So I look forward to battles against those guys.
With the PHL players, a lot of the great players from, the suburban North and West, sometimes they end up in the private schools. And now you got a couple of former NFL players, that are coaching it. It's a reason why you want to stay maybe in your school. I want to ask you a little bit. We'll change gears here. You overcame 2 or 3 pretty significant injuries during your playing days, at Mizzou and in the NFL. What was the key to getting back and playing at a high level?
It's just work, man. You got to put the work in. It was tough. I'm not going to say that it was easy. It was tough. And it was tougher the first time I tore my ACL than the second time. You tear it, 7, 8 years later. Technology is different. Medicine's advanced. So it was a little bit easier to recover that time. But it's just all about the work you put into it. I had an interview of somebody asking me kind of my thought process kind of when it happens, for 15 minutes, and this is the second time I did it, for 15 minutes, I was down in the dumps. It was my contract year. So I was really looking forward to playing this season. 15 minutes, I was really down. And then after that, I flushed it, and it was just time to get to work, man. I attacked rehab like it was my game each and every day. I had a really, really good support system around me with my family. But a lot of it is just how much work you put into it. A lot of the times you see people come back from ACL because they bust their butts. And then the people that kind of struggle from it don't really go as hard kind of doing the rehab process. And that's kind of what it is. So for me, like I said, it was all about working hard, and then that support system was huge.
Jeremy, I remember the day I got to meet you, and it was Missouri-Illinois game at the Dome. I mean, it was a really close game. I think it was like back in 2007, and you had like your coming out game, and I think Pig Brown had an interception at the at the very end of the game to cap that one off. And I was standing about 10 feet away from you, and I grabbed you immediately. I'm like, this guy is going to be a star. And I had the opportunity to ask you a couple of questions, and it was just deafening in that dome. Do you remember that moment,
Man,
when you guys defeated Illinois, when the
listen,
interception there was like, yeah.
I'll never forget it. You know, for me, I waited a year, right? Like I got to school during the summer. I hurt myself. I don't play the whole year. So for me, that game meant so much to be able to come out and play, to play in front of my hometown, to play in front of my friends and family. And it just meant so much, man. And to be able to go out there and be able to score not once but twice and kind of make some big plays. It was just validation of everything that I kind of went through that whole year, right? The rehab, everything. So it's one of those games that you're going to talk about forever. You know, it was a renewed rivalry back in St. Louis between two schools that should be playing every year, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it was just really cool experience for that to be my first collegiate game, to be able to go out there and do it in my hometown. I remember the first time I touched the football, I actually fumbled it on a reverse, and I was able to pick it up, and I went like 30 yards down the sideline. And then in my head, I'm like, okay, Jeremy, you can do this. And everything just kind of slowed down for me. And so I mean, those are games that you'll never forget, and you'll be telling your kids about.
Yeah, I remember being in the press box, and everybody's like, that's your coming out game. And everybody was so excited. It's like, there's a future superstar, you know, in the making right here. Mizzou was lucky enough to have you for a couple more years. And then you went on to the NFL, and you were selected, I guess, 19th overall by the Philadelphia Eagles in the 09. A lot of people, you know, were saying that you might go even higher than that, but being picked in the first round, 19th overall in the nation. I mean, there's hundreds of colleges. You know, that must have been a pretty special day for you.
Yeah, you know, it was another one of those things, like I said, that you always talk about, that you'll never forget. And it's just all your hard work that you put into it, man. You know, leaving Mizzou hurt me, because Mizzou, I had gone through so much at Mizzou, and it had shaped me into the person that I was, and I didn't want to leave. And the bond that I had there was so strong, and with my teammates and with my coaches and just Columbia in general, right? They just made me feel right at home. And I remember in my presser, you know, when I decided I was going to go pro, I broke down, because that's how much it meant to me, man. And, you know, for me, character matters, people matter, you know, and that's why I went to Mizzou in the first place, because it was a family. And I couldn't have asked for a better experience. Still to this day, I respect the heck out of Coach Pinkel for sitting me down and looking me dead in my eyes. And he told me after my redshirt sophomore season that, hey, if you were my son, I'd tell you to go to the league. I'd tell you to go pro. And that's, for me, that was such a cool moment, because what coach do you know is going to tell their best player with one of their best players with 2 years of eligibility left to go to the league? And so I always have the most utmost respect for him for forever. So,
I mean, it's how can they hold you back? It's like, you know, if you go in the NFL, I mean, you already had an injury or two, so now you still have an opportunity to get paid. And so if you make that jump and you sign the contract, then, you know, now, you know, you're probably set for life. So it was probably a great decision by you. 10 years in the NFL. I mean, you know, who's the best cover guy you ever faced?
Best cover guy. Oh,
you know,
man.
Best cover, you know, best like defensive back, best cornerback.
So I got a chance. I got a chance to play against Ramsey when I was older and he was kind of fresh. I played against Nnamdi Asamoah when he was at the top of his game. I played against Revis when he was at the top of his game. I even got a chance. When I was with Philly, we went to New England when Revis was there, and we got a chance to practice for a couple days before we played our preseason game. So we was able to get like some really, really good battles and practice and stuff like that. You know, the one guy who doesn't get enough credit, who I respect a lot, is Jason Verrett. He was the first guy that I played against that followed me everywhere on the field. If I lined it up in the slot, he was in the slot. If I lined it up outside, he was outside. This is my first year in Kansas City. First and second year in Kansas City. If I lined up in the backfield, he was at linebacker. He followed me everywhere across the field. He had me man to man, and I got nothing but respect for him. And I was, this is kind of off topic a little bit, but now I'm so happy to see him kind of battling back from injuries and now being a solid player now again like he used to be. So
You only got a couple of questions left, but who talked the most trash? Because it's fun to see when you're watching the games, you see the wide receiver and sometimes you see the cornerback lined up right there and you can see him jawing. Who talks the most out on the field?
oh man, a bunch of guys talk.
Or just everybody, there's one on each team?
Oh my God, there's a bunch of guys that talk. I wasn't a big talker. I did a little shoving and stuff after the whistle sometimes, but the biggest talker was probably LaRon Landry. Played safety for the Washington football team now, but at the time the Redskins, played against him twice a year. He would not be quiet. Talked the whole entire time. The whole entire time.
He was yapping away the whole time.
The whole time, yeah. Oh yeah.
Now, you're still a young guy, and it looks like you're going to be coaching for a while at Kirkwood. But do you have any aspirations down the road? After 5-6 years maybe with the Pioneers again, do you have any aspirations to maybe take it to the college level, or maybe someday try to coach in the pros?
Right now, man, I'm so content with how things are right now. My the most important thing right now for me is to, be a father to my daughter, be a father to my future daughter who will be here in a couple months, and just be the best husband I can and be the best coach to these kids that I can. So right now, that's what's important. That's all that I'm really thinking about. And for so long, like you said, for about 10 years, I was away from home a lot. And now I have an opportunity to, be a father, and be a pretty damn good one. So I'm just really excited about that and excited to coach these kids at Kirkwood and not only help them be successful on the football field, but off the football field as well.
So now you can give back as well, and you can
yeah.
stay in your own home. You can drive to work, and you don't have to be on the road all the time. That must be a beautiful thing. And thank you so much, Jeremy Maclin, for sharing that with us.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
All right, Jeremy Maclin on Inside Sports. Wow, that was amazing. Well, recently, the Missouri Valley Conference's Arch Madness basketball tournament was held for the 31st consecutive year in St. Louis. It was a very strange contrast this year, with just a handful of fans allowed because of the pandemic. And it was a farewell to one of the NCAA great commissioners, Doug Elgin.
I think when you're turning 70 in the early part of next year, you begin to think about time and family. I have together, my wife and I have 6 daughters in the area, 8 grandchildren. I thought it was time, and the transition will give us an opportunity. Announcing it now for the June 30 departure that I'll have gives our President's Council time with the national search firm to get a good candidate pool and hire a great leader to lead the Valley down the road.
I'm thinking, there's 2 or 3 pretty good candidates in your office. Is a national search needed to spending all that money when you have a Patty Viverito, a Mike Kern, and a Jack Watkins in-house? Or will they be happy to stay in their spots and make the new commissioner's job so much easier and a smooth transition?
Well, I think Greg Walter is another another person on our staff who could also be a candidate. But I don't think I think that the President's Council really felt that a national search was probably the best path to follow. They will they're going to probably do interviews during the State Farm Missouri Valley Tournament next spring, and however it turns out, I think they'll get a really tremendous candidate that they can elevate to the position.
So, Doug, over the last 33 years of being commissioner of the Missouri Valley Conference, what are some of your favorite memories?
If you look at men's basketball, it would have to be 2 women's teams that have gone on to Final Fours, and they were both Southwestern Missouri State and Missouri State, obviously. On the men's side, Wichita State went to a Final Four. Loyola Chicago also went to a Final Four most recently. And that, to me, was one of the more historic runs by any team in Division I basketball. They won the first 3 games of the tournament by a total of 4 points. And they They overwhelmed Kansas State in the Elite Eight game. They led by 25 points at one point in that game to go to the Final Four in San Antonio. And that was just a really joyous moment for all of us. And really, when you look at the quality of competition across the board in athletics in our league, baseball, softball, men's and women's soccer, women's basketball, men's basketball. I mean, it's amazing what this conference has done to compete in postseason play. And if you look at men's basketball here in St. Louis, we've had 39 victories against teams by our men's basketball teams in tournament play, leaving St. Louis, getting into the NCAA tournament.
So how proud of you, before we let you go, are you of your staff, the city and the region all coming together and supporting the Missouri Valley so strong over these last 33 years?
Oh, I think it's been terrific. It's been a great run for me, and I couldn't have asked for a better fit for my skill set and experience coming in here. Our senior staff has done just an awesome job down through the years. Fan base has been supportive when we brought events here, and just can't say enough about how good I feel about where we are as a conference and what it looks like down the road in our future with what we'll do to compete down the road.
Well, the Enterprise Center had a surreal feel for this year's event. Only a few people were here on the streets. The hotels were not near capacity, and the hospitality industry didn't receive its usual economic impact it's experienced over the last 3 decades because of the pandemic. Northern Iowa's quarterfinal game versus Drake was canceled because of the COVID protocol, giving Drake a bye into the semifinals. But the games that could go on did. The number 1 seed Loyola Chicago defeated Drake 75-65 to stamp its ticket to the big dance. After Loyola's second MVC title, head coach Porter Moser celebrated his part of cutting down the nets by giving a farewell gesture to retiring commissioner Doug Elgin. It was a proud and a sad moment all in one.
31 years ago, I was part of the first Arch Madness at Creighton when we cut down the nets. And Doug Elgin was the commissioner 31 years ago. Today, this year he's retiring. 31 years later, we're cutting down the nets. Arch Madness is what it is because of our commissioner, Doug Elgin. So we're going to give him a commemorative piece of our net for Doug Elgin.
Drake did receive an at-large bid to the big dance, and the Ramblers senior, Cameron Krutrig, won the tournament's most outstanding player, which will now be known as the Doug Elgin Award. Doug's legend will live on forever in NCAA basketball, and he will be missed. I'm Todd Blackstock. That's our show for today. Thanks for watching Inside Sports on STL TV Experience St.